Today is November the 16th, 2021. Welcome to the special called meeting of the Decatur Historic Preservation Commission. I will call roll with each commission member answering present. John Allison.
He is excused.
John Godwin.
Present.
Rebecca Poole Burns.
She's excused.
Barbara Kelly.
Excused.
Lynn Schupert.
Here.
Bill Stone.
Present.
I'm Dodie Hall, and we have a quorum present. Dr. Swope is the city's preservation specialist. Thank you, Mr. Duper, for attending today. Your involvement in this commission's proceedings is vital to the effectiveness of this process. There is a copy of the agenda out front if you would like one. Historic district designation means your neighborhoods have been recognized by the United States government, the state of Alabama, and the city of Decatur as being architecturally or historically significant to our community. Historic districts are not created to prevent changes, but rather to ensure that the proposed changes are appropriate to each individual property and the districts as a whole. The Commission's responsibility is to review the appropriateness of all proposed changes. The Preservation Commission has written standards and regulations that guide our review and our decision-making. These guidelines and the Commission's decisions have the force of city ordinance. You can access our guidelines along with the application forms on the city's website. Our hearing process is as follows. Number one, the staff will present the applications. When they read your name and property address, please be prepared to come to the podium. Staff will present the application and staff assessment of each request. The staff assessment results from a review of the application from someone who exceeds federal qualifications as published in Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 61. Number two, when staff has finished presenting the application item, the applicant or designated representative will then state their name and address and provide any additional information or comments regarding that application item. The Commission may ask clarifying questions of the applicant at this time. Next, we will hear any public comments on that particular application item only. After public comment has closed, the chair will entertain a motion and the Commission will discuss and dispense with that application item. The staff will then proceed to the next application item and so forth. A certificate of appropriateness, or a COA, will be issued in the form of an email that CCs both the applicant and the building department approximately 1 week after this hearing. The document will outline and reaffirm what was approved and that the project has met the guidelines of the Commission. A COA must be issued before a building permit can be obtained. If any changes to your project are anticipated after the COA is issued, it is the responsibility of the homeowner to contact staff and she will help guide you. In some cases, you may be required to submit the changes for review and the issuance of a new COA. If your project or a portion of is denied and you are not issued a COA, you will be issued a letter stating the reasons for denial. You may resubmit an application with revised plans for the next meeting. There is an appeal process for denied COAs as well, which is spelled out in the municipal ordinance under sections 1825 and 1892. After all applications are heard, the Commission will entertain general comments from the public, limited to 3 minutes per individual. Caroline, before we get started tonight, I want to go back and refresh everybody's memory.
Okay.
Mr. Duper, I think the last time you were here was back in May or June. Yeah, May. I'm reading from June's minutes of your COA process at that time. This is the 421 6th Avenue. Background: the house was foreclosed on by a bank over a year ago and has been in code violation for porch rot. COAs were submitted for repair work by the holding company last summer. Staff was also on site when the police department was called to secure the side entrance and negotiated to have the historic ornate door preserved. A realtor for the property reached out to staff to visit site with the current owner when the property was under contract with Mr. Duper. Staff met with Duper to answer questions about the COA process and district procedures. Staff met again with Mr. Duper on May the 10th after closing to discuss district guidelines again. Staff reiterated the COA process. Staff was questioned on removing a large mature pecan tree on the front corner of the lot because the applicant didn't want a tree in front of the house. The staff asked for an arborist to visit and make a determination of health, and then discuss requesting approval from the commission to remove the tree with a suitable replacement proposed for after the site work was finished. Several days later, the tree was cut down and is now lying in the front yard. No COA was submitted. Staff met with Mr. Duper and the Planning Department on May the 17th to discuss a spot zoning request for the site. Staff discussed the possible conditional use permitting or zoning overlay that the HPC, HDA, and DDRA and the 6th Avenue Improvement Group have been exploring. Mr. Duper sent staff a note apologizing for not following proper COA procedure for the tree removal, writing that he became selfish and that he wanted it cut down without going through the necessary steps. Mr. Duper then submitted a retroactive COA asking to remove tree and replace with weeping cherry. Staff met with Commission Architect Godwin and Duper on site to discuss the landscape, the importance of tree canopy in the neighborhood and on the street, and other possible changes to the house. Staff discovered the historic side door had been removed. Duper maintains it rotted and that they removed it from the site. The side of the house is currently unsecured. Mr. Duper has approved fast-track COAs for siding repair, roofing repair, and gutters. In the future, he would like to submit for a new front sidewalk and a detached garage. The action requested the retroactive COA approval for the removal of the pecan tree, replaced with a new tree at the southwest rear corner of the lot. Original tree was in the southeast front corner of the lot on 6th. The proposed tree is an oak, possibly a white oak, caliper not stated on the COA. Decatur's design review standards. Number 11, landscaping. Large shade trees such as oaks and maples are along streets in both districts. Number 1, trees. The planting of new trees to replace dead or diseased trees is recommended. The staff findings were the commission has required the planting of large caliper oaks or other shade trees in front of a house on Kane Street several months ago when the existing large tree were removed from the yard. There was discussion over the appropriateness of removing the tree when the applicant had been told they needed a COA. There was discussion of the importance of trees within the district. The vote, a motion was made by John Godwin, seconded by Bill Stone, to retroactively approve the removal of the mature pecan tree. The motion failed to carry, with 1 vote in favor and 6 votes against. There was discussion that white oak was appropriate about 3 to 4 feet from the property line. Hines and Rosewood Nursery, both mentioned as companies, have historically had product in stock. Commission would like to see a 45-gallon large tree in this location. Vote. The motion was made by Lynn Schubert and seconded by John Godwin to approve 2-inch or larger caliper 45-gallon white oak at proposed side. Unanimous approval, motion carried. So that's a little bit of history before we get into the COAs that you have pending for this meeting.
Okay. So we have multiple COAs tonight, and those are actually like turned in official COAs, and then we have a few sort of pending that we expect to come in front of the commission shortly, but we need some dialogue with the commission on directive on that. So I have those at the tail end. So this is a reminder, this is a picture of the house. This is a street view from March of this year. So this is a 2021 photo, right before it sold. As a matter of fact, you can see it actually has the for sale sign in the yard still. This is the house. This past weekend, the lot was graded and cleared off, but this is a more recent version of the house. And the first COA is a front sidewalk replacement. The concrete front sidewalk is currently cracked and broken. It was pretty pulverized. It's 4 feet wide from the street to the house. And then there's a portion that veers to the right to connect the front door with the side entrance. That's narrower, that's about 3 feet wide. The sidewalk was removed this weekend with the construction, but it was so pulverized, I understand that choice. There wasn't anything to fix left on that sidewalk. And the applicant would like to replace it with a brick sidewalk in a basket weave pattern. And this is the one that is shown on the COA. So with that pattern, it's also got the sides on it. So it's sort of a two-part design. So it's trimmed on the sides, and then it has the center portion. The design review standards for sidewalks, poured concrete sidewalks were introduced into the historic districts in the early 20th century, and the continued repair and reuse of concrete for sidewalks is appropriate. But it doesn't indicate that brick or stone is necessarily problematic, and the commission has approved brick sidewalks before in the commission, and at least one stone one that I'm aware of. The applicant has not indicated if the brick will be set in concrete or sand, so I think that needs to be clarified for the COA. But other than that, I think we have all the information that the commission needs at this point.
Can you clarify whether you're going to put it on concrete or in sand? And the reason I'm really asking is I've got both in my yard, and if you spend a lot of money on that sidewalk in sand, you'll be doing it very quickly again. So what are you planning on doing?
I was planning on doing it in sand. I was planning on putting gravel down beneath the sand, and then putting sand, and then putting brick on top of it. But I don't have to.
It's just my suggestion that it's not going to last. I mean, John,
Your choice,
yeah.
but I think,
but it's,
yeah. Let me ask you a question. So the existing sidewalks are gone, right?
Yes, yes.
So they're gone. You're gonna put them back in exactly where they
Yeah.
were?
3 feet, or no, sorry, 4 feet going from the road to the, from 6th Avenue to the front door, and then 3 feet from veering off to that side door.
Okay. I don't guess we have you didn't record where that was, like,
I did. I
You
took a
did?
picture of it.
okay, all right,
And then I measured it, and I got a picture of it, the measurements and stuff too.
okay.
There's no drawing that accompanies this of where the sidewalk's gonna be located?
No, but I mean, it would be in the exact same spots that they were in. So potentially, I guess, if you looked at I don't know if the older picture that we had up there before has exactly where the sidewalks are, but, well, no, you can't really see it from that.
You can see here where it's
Yeah, I can see
centered on this front pediment, and then it comes out here is straight. And then the one that accessed the side, it curves. It starts somewhere about right there, and then it goes around and it curves into the side porch, pergola, deck, whatever it's called.
I guess what I would want to make sure is that it, you know, that it would be put back at the same location.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Rather than just saying, yeah, do that, and then the whole yard is brick. We don't want to do that.
No.
Okay.
It's more money.
But you can put concrete too, if you wanted to. That's appropriate.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're looking for dollars,
I think brick looks a lot better.
I mean, well, but what I'm saying is it's still appropriate.
Okay.
And John, I think the commission in the past, every time they have approved concrete, it has been an aggregate with a tent. So if that is the direction on a COA, or if the commission wants to give him an option for either, which they have done before, very clearly defined option, I would suggest the commission stays consistent with prior rulings on that nuance with the concrete.
I think that would probably be a wise thing to do for you, just to give you that option. Now, do we have anywhere the manufacturer or who does this?
Barbara Kelly is our go-to on everything with concrete tinting and aggregate size. So if he decides to go that route, I can get the data from
What
her.
that means is that it's not just plain white concrete.
Oh,
It has a mix to it, and there's a technique that they'll use to lay it, and they'll wash it in an aggregate, so it has a brown kind of hue to it,
okay.
rather
Interesting.
than stark white.
Gotcha. Okay.
I make a motion.
I
Have more
wanna
questions?
ask something. I also would like for you to contact Caroline before you start this and when you've got your sidewalks lined
Okay.
out.
Okay.
And let her make sure that they are back where they're supposed to be going. Because quite frankly, your history is not good with us. So,
And before you start, if you do concrete, before you start pouring concrete, check and see that that's what it is, because I think this commission at this
line
point in
it.
time will have you dig
Yeah,
that up.
I can line it. I can line it with wood tomorrow, or well, maybe not tomorrow, this weekend, and have you come out, I guess, and verify everything.
Are you doing the sidewalk pretty shortly? You about?
Yeah, that's the
You ready to
first
start?
one of the
Okay.
first thing. I will say this: the stairs have since cracked a little bit. I would like to replace those as well. That can be a whole separate COA for sure, and that doesn't have to be when I do the the
Which
sidewalk.
stairs,
The
front
front
porch
stairs.
stairs?
Yes, the front stairs.
stairs?
Are
I
they
would like to
con-
also replace those with brick if possible. Much like that other house on Sherman Street that's being remodeled, they replaced their front steps with brick. I don't know if they replaced them, but they're brick now. They look really good.
yeah, that's Coleman's.
We can talk about that at a future.
Okay.
So the
Did the stairs crack because were they on top of the sidewalk? Was that the problem on the sidewalk?
Yeah, when we took the
So when you
some
pulled
of
the
the sidewalk.
sidewalk, it took the structural stability out from under the stairs.
I haven't looked under there, but so yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna redo it, yeah,
Okay.
probably be better to do that.
So we're gonna put down concrete first and then brick?
Well, that's what I was discussing. I don't know. I've only heard of putting brick and sand. I guess you could put in concrete, but I've never done that before.
Concrete would be a lot better, save you a lot of work later on.
I think, my opinion is that he can do it either way.
Okay.
I think we're looking at what the finished product's gonna be, and, we're giving him suggestions that we've personally had issues with sand base, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he needs to do that. You can do it either way. That's what I
So
would.
it could be concrete, brick set and stand, or brick set and concrete, as long as it meets the style that has been shown in the location.
Yes, I mean, we're looking at, yeah.
Okay.
I will say with the style that's shown, is there a different style that y'all would suggest, or is that a good style for the district? Or because I'm open. I mean, I saw that walking in the old district, and I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. But I'm not like, it's not like I'm married to that style or anything.
Well, what you're doing is you're locking yourself into
Right?
that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would like. I think that looks great, but I just didn't know. I mean, that's not. I think that looks great, but if there's something else that
Well,
that y'all
it's just,
feel good
it's what you have submitted is what's on record.
about. Okay,
So
that's fine with me.
that's the pattern that we're looking at, so
Okay.
that's the pattern that we would
Approved.
Expect.
approve.
Okay, great. Looks good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
And
Have we
should
totally, have we got the guidelines down clearly, or?
Yeah, I want to be clear that the motion is to approve a sidewalk that matches this picture and design. It can be either brick set in sand, brick set in concrete, or if he prefers, it can be a concrete aggregate that matches other ones. Those are the three options. And that it will follow the historic location of the removed sidewalks and widths, and that is to be verified by staff once it is delineated and before the materials are put down. Is that what I'm hearing is that motion?
And as materials are being put down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so one, to make sure that the sidewalks are located properly. The second is to make sure that the brick and or concrete are what was submitted.
What's been approved, yeah. Second.
Okay, well, I think Bill seconded, so Godwin
Oh,
made
okay.
motion, Bill seconded.
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, so brick piers and siding, so this is on the front of the porch. Existing porch foundation piers have been painted, obviously more than once. The applicant is claiming that they are failing and need to all be replaced. So he would like to replace all of the structural brick piers with new brick porch piers. As part of the replacement process, the porch skirting, which is in various states of decay, is going to have to be removed, and he's going to need to probably make new porch skirting to go back up. It would be the same design that would go there. The design review standards: most building foundations are constructed of brick or brick piers. Repairs, masonry repair, replacement, or repointing should match the original work in material, color, texture, workmanship, and character. Repointing with inappropriate mortar can have visual and physical consequences. And then the standards go on to talk about preservation brief 1 and 2, which is how to clean historic masonry. Applicant has not provided staff with a brick mason or certified engineering report for the commission to review to support the request of complete removal. There has not been any documents turned in indicating how the porch flooring and the roof would be supporting while the repair or the replacement of the brick occurs. I do have the photo on the left. The photo I kept trying to take and I couldn't because it was so dark, but there's like a stack of concrete blocks under one portion of the porch that are sort of holding up a portion of it, but they're pushed further back. You don't see them easily. I tried taking multiple photos and it just wasn't going to show up. So some of the piers are in better shape than others. Some are leaning, some are missing brickwork. I think I've only got one recorded evidence of someone working on exterior brick piers in the
Did
last
the
few
Colemans
years.
work on, didn't they?
They
Yes.
had to rebuild part of theirs. The other one we had over in Albany on Johnston, where they re-tuck pointed and they had some fill in the back. So it's not something that happens very often, but this is something that's fairly minor and is often hidden with landscaping by the time it's finished. I would just clarify on how the process is going to work, because you have that entire porch that is, when they have spent so long getting out of plumb, if you try to bring everything up to plumb, you will often crack the supporting members of everything else. So that's sort of the discussion that the commission might want to clarify, is what the process is, because you rarely get things completely level again. You get things stabilized is where they go. And John, you can probably speak more to that as well if you've got any questions or things you'd like to see.
Well, I guess my first question, has a brick mason looked at it?
I've not. It's hard to find one. I've not had a brick mason specifically look at those piers. No.
Well, this is the thing. You're talking about a structural foundation element. So once you removing that is more than just removing it. Mm-hmm. You're shoring up everything else.
Yeah.
You're doing, and it might be that it needs to happen. But what I've looked at could be. It seems to me that the maybe the most appropriate way is to get a brick mason. They can repoint it, retuck it, replace, and if there is some structural issues with it, they can with a pier or something that they can fix that. Coming in and taking it out is a major undertaking, and I don't think it's one. It might be that you need to do that, but I'm thinking that it's probably like that one in that picture right there. It's a repointing, regrouting, replacing some missing, and forming it up, and that's a lot less evasive to taking things out that's supporting other things, and it's we don't necessarily look at it, but it's an economic thing too. Is that you don't have to spend that money to do that, because you can repair that.
My biggest thing, I think, with those, when I look at those bricks, and structurally, I do think there's definitely some parts, like you're saying, I am going to have to replace. I would just like the outside to look better. I don't know if a brick mason can, whether that be pressure washing it or if that be putting like a little layer on the outside or something. But when I look at that, I think, well, this house is about to fall down, and if he could make it, you know, look better.
I think, well, it's right here today, we're trying to make a decision on whether to approve your request of taking it all down.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't think that you want us to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't think we can do that, or at least I can't.
Okay.
Because if we would need to have some more structural evidence.
Okay.
You hire a structural guy to come over there and look at it, evaluate it, and then look at his recommendations.
Okay.
And I would think that if you did that, a structural engineer and a brick mason, those two guys could give you a wealth of information to direct you on what's the most appropriate way. Because we're going to look at it and say the most appropriate thing is to fix what's there.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of taking out. And the other thing too is that that brick has already been painted. That's correct, right? That's what I'm looking at.
That's
So
what's
you can
there.
clean them and paint them.
Okay. Cool.
And so that, you know, I think to make them look the appearance of what you're looking at,
Yeah.
I really think brick mason and a painter could
Well,
do
yeah.
that.
I mean, that makes my job easy.
In my opinion.
Do you have termite shields?
Termite shields? That's down the line. I don't have them yet.
Between this masonry thing and the wood.
Oh, termite shields. Oh, I'm sorry. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. If you have a chance to use them, use them.
Okay.
So if what I'm hearing from the commission is they're willing to authorize repointing and fixing of the existing brick, if it gets to the point where he's brought in professionals and they advise complete replacement or partial replacement, the commission wants to have that brought back in front of them. Is that what I'm?
Can I ask one more question? When do you, I'm hearing some things, and I'm saying the condition of the property right now. When do you plan on doing that? I mean, we're approving a lot, we're looking at sheds and parking things. What's your plan for getting this done? Because
Like timelines and stuff?
Timeline,
Yeah.
because it seems to me you got it in April, and things just keep rolling and happening, and we're doing
Yes.
that. And that's, I don't want to approve a whole lot. Plus the fact you've got a deadline. Once this is approved, what's the deadline?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months to do it, or you're back here in front of us.
Right. Yeah.
Is that, what's your timeline for doing this?
Yeah. Well, I think repointing, I mean, my timeline's probably the next 4 or 5 weeks, I would say, if it's just repointing. I'm really, you obviously learn a lot when you ever remodel a home. I'm learning you really got to start with the roof and you got to start with the foundation. And I didn't do that when I first got in there. So I'm kind of trying to really backtrack and say, all right, let's do it right this time. So I would say, yeah, within the next 4 or 5 weeks to try to repoint this stuff.
So did you have to have an inspection when you bought that house?
I did not know. I already knew. I mean, I knew I could tell what was all wrong with it and stuff.
But you don't know structurally whether these piers are going to continue to support the house?
Well, as far as structurally goes, what I was already planning on doing this. I've jacked up the floor joists in the kitchen to make everything level with floor joists. My plan with this is to get under there, put 3 floor joists in, and put probably a 2x8 that's about 16 feet long, and jack it up that way. That way, these bricks are not even necessarily carrying. If they are carrying a load, great. But if not, they still have those other floor joists that are carrying the load as well. That's what those bricks that Caroline was referring to. That's what those are essentially doing, except they're just doing it in a very terrible way.
This is supporting the porch, right? This is not the main foundation of the house.
No, this is the porch. Yes.
This is just the porch.
Yeah.
Okay. My suggestion would be, hey, let's do some more research. Let's table this one and go to the next one.
Okay.
That would be my opinion.
I agree.
If we table one, what's the process?
If it's tabled, it can come back at any point.
Okay.
Or maybe not tabling it, maybe he withdraws it. Is there a difference?
Yes, if he withdraws it,
If you
then
withdraw it.
Yeah, that's fine. I can withdraw it until a future. I mean, I'm sure we'll be
Okay.
back in 2 or 3 months.
Do we need to issue a COA that authorizes repair on this so that if he finds out it's repairable, he doesn't have to come back to the commission, or what would you like?
Well, I mean, if it's gonna be repairable, could you not?
I
You
can
can
if the
handle
commission
that?
wants me to. Yeah,
I
if
would
it's a
think so.
repairing kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my opinion.
So we're gonna withdraw this request, and you can expedite the request to repair the existing piers.
And so I want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. So, Mr. Duper, you're going to withdraw this particular COA. You are going to find a brick mason, work with a brick mason to determine what is viable with your supports. If they say, oh, it's something they can fix, I have the ability, the commission would like me to go ahead and do a fast track COA, which this is a standard repair, so I have the authority to do that if the commission
And you
wants
can
me to.
handle the skirting too, if it's
Yeah, and
replacing it.
okay, and I can handle the skirting. If the brick mason or engineer comes back and says they are too far gone, then you want to
Comes
see a
back in.
new COA from him with that
Yes.
data and
Yes.
a more unified replacement plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Emily, we don't do a vote on that, right? Because he just withdrew
no,
it?
it's technically withdrawn.
And it's in the notes?
And
Okay.
then it's in your notes that you've got, what you've been allowed. I mean, if they want to do a vote about what you are allowed to expedite the process, we can certainly do that on the record if you want to do that.
I'm already authorized to fast track repairs, so do we need to do that? It's already
No,
part of, okay.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I just
It's
didn't know
already-
if it, for clarification,
Yeah,
I wanted to.
okay. Gravel, a driveway parking pad. Now, my understanding is there've been some changes on this, so I'm gonna show you what we've got. It's like a freight train going through. And then Mr. Duper will sort of fill you in. The applicant has currently had a curb cut, and there remains, and I use that term loosely, of a parking lot that was accessed from 6th Avenue. And it was a pretty dangerous place to park, because obviously you're having to come in and out of 6th Avenue all the time with the traffic. So he would like to install, as it was written, a gravel parking area on the alley side of the house towards the rear. This is the old Sanborn map. So this is the footprint of the house. This is where there had been an outbuilding. There's nothing there now. Design review standards for landscaping and parking. Parking areas should be located at secondary elevations wherever possible. Parking lots and driveways should be screened by fencing or shrubbery to separate them from the streets and adjacent structures. Garden structures, retaining walls should be located as to not be readily visible from public vantages. So moving the parking access from 6th Avenue to the alley is strongly supported by the design review guidelines. The applicant has not submitted a landscaping plan yet, so the commission might want to look at requesting one of those, particularly since the entire lot was cleared this weekend. And that could address.
Is the driveway gone too?
Yes, sir.
There was a lot of damage on the concrete, so if you go by it now, it's pretty much all dirt with the exception of there's a partial retaining wall that he was.
So we're
building
not
on the
putting
back.
that back?
Not on the front.
Okay.
That's not his plan right now. So the commission could request a landscaping plan to address the parking area with the parking lot materials and foundation plantings, and that is something that the commission has done for multiple other
I
applicants.
know where you can get some pea gravel. I'm serious. If you wanted to go over and get the pea gravel, I'm sure those people let you have it.
It is,
No,
it's not a shame.
so,
When are you leaving?
yeah.
Sorry, he agrees.
Explain it to him.
So-
Staff, I made a site visit Friday, and there was a large pile of pressure-treated railroad ties or lumber in the backyard. And at that point, Mr. Duper was claiming they were needed for a retaining wall to hold that parking lot within its sort of place. The addition of the large lumber posts is beyond the temporary measure of the original gravel parking lot that had been discussed with staff. There wasn't a mention of this in the COA. It's sounds like he has additional details he wanted to discuss with the commission on this, and that he may have
Yeah.
partially changed it, so I will let
Yeah, I
you
changed it
explain.
completely, actually. All right, so this used to be a like type of house. There was 2 stories here. I would like to eventually put that back at some point. Maybe not the exact dimensions, but somewhere back there, make that a house. It was brought to my attention, the best place for a driveway would really be here, because then I'm turning onto Sherman Street. My neighbors have a driveway, concrete driveway right here. What I would really like to do is put a driveway right here. That way I can cover it with shrubbery and my nice oak tree, which is going right here. Probably eventually gonna have a tree house in it. And then leave this for now, still have, I would like to have a retaining wall there just because you really can't put a structure there without some type of retaining wall, but I think that's a separate COA to eventually build that. But that's not necessary, that's not anytime soon, for sure. But that's kind of my plan, to move the driveway here. Don't even worry about putting, I think I said gravel driveway right there for now. Put it nice, a driveway here, and it can be hidden too. It can be hidden, yeah, I think it would look great.
Do you have a curb cut there? Because the standards are saying to approach from the rear.
Yeah, it would be, right here.
But no, is there a curb cut there? You've got a retaining wall there now, so what I'm asking is there actually a curb cut there for your lot?
Oh, like where the retaining wall is?
No,
Yeah.
curb cut,
Curb.
like,
Do you have a curb cut?
is there no curb where you want to put the driveway?
No, there is a curb there.
There is a
Yeah,
curb,
I
so
would,
it
I
would
would have
require
to,
a
I would
curb
have to go through the curb, yeah.
So,
Okay. So do you just want to withdraw this application at this time and come back with a complete application when you're ready for that?
I can, is that something the commission, as far as, now that you know where I would like to put the driveway, is that even an option? To me, that makes the most sense to put a driveway.
What's he gotta do to get the curb cut?
The commission typically has been very reluctant to grant curb cuts if there is the ability to come in from the alley. I'm trying
and
to.
there is.
Yeah, and there is in this case. I'm trying to remember, we've had one new driveway that I can recall in the last several years that required a curb cut, and there was no alley access for that particular site. In other cases, they have been told to come in from the alley, or they had existing driveways. And there are existing driveways that are quite old, but not all houses have driveways. And the commission historically has said that that doesn't mean that they would necessarily, if there was room to come in from the rear, the standards say come in from the rear. So that has historically been the commission's stance.
Have you thought about making, I mean, I know you say you want to put the house back there, and can you pull that back up?
It would have been a carriage house or a garage of some
Right.
sort on the main floor
So
with
the
something
house
upstairs.
in the picture is on the other lot, right?
Hmm?
Go back to the street picture.
Correct.
This one? Or the front, the full front?
Yeah, you got another one in there?
This one?
You don't have one from Sherman, do you?
The
I can pull one
the
up. The whole
house
thing? Give me a second.
The house that,
behind it is on the other lot, that's the other guy's house.
Yes.
Yeah,
the
that
little
one is for
shed
sale
thing back there.
currently.
There's a, shed back there. That's,
Give me a second and I will pull up.
So the one behind him is for sale, it's not under contract.
that's
I
correct.
don't believe so. It
Okay.
just went on the market.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the front of the house. The original COA was calling for parking pads somewhere back in this area, so you would turn down the alley on either here or Fourth, and then access it here. What he's talking about
Yeah,
is
yeah.
removing this retaining wall and basically having a double concrete driveway here.
Or potentially talk to my neighbors and asking if I could share that driveway just for that bottom part and still do a little concrete pad and not have to touch the retaining wall or the sidewalk.
so it sounds like we need to withdraw this COA and you need to come back to us when you've decided what you want to do about a driveway.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 4.
Hold on. Backyard shed. Due to the amount of construction materials and tools on the site, applicant would like to acquire a prefabricated shed roof structure for storage. Location would be on the far back end of the side rear yard. And I believe, if I'm correct, the approximate size of this was 6 by 10 feet and 8 feet tall. Is that right on this
The
one?
northwest corner of the site.
Yes, there. Is it still the right location?
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes.
Okay, so that's where he's proposing. So set back from the alley. Whoops. And that is the finished product.
And that's gonna be temporary.
Well, we can discuss that. I would like, I mean, you look at any, house on my street.
Can you let me finish my staff report and go through
Okay,
it?
sorry.
And then we'll
Yeah.
come right back to you.
Okay.
Design review standards do not exist for temporary storage units within the district. Fully approved new construction, the following exist within the city standards. Outbuildings and auxiliary buildings. New construction, new outbuildings should be simple and designed to complement and blend in with the main residence. Outbuildings constructed within street vantages should generally meet the guidelines for new construction or additions. While they are not encouraged, the use of metal or frame prefabricated outbuildings is appropriate as long as they are not readily visible from the street. If such buildings are used, the installation of landscape screening is encouraged. Staff findings. I could find no evidence that temporary sheds have been approved in the past. A storage pod, like one of the pods, might be more appropriate in this particular situation. I suggest giving a date for removal of a temporary structure if one is approved and not leaving a COA open-ended. If the commission is looking at approving something more permanent, we've had lots of applications for storage sheds, and the commission has always been very diligent on ensuring that they were screened and that they were, materials were traditional in appearance. So we haven't had any corrugated roofs, we haven't had any shed roofs, they've all been a gabled, sort of plank siding, I think, is almost everything that I've seen that's come in front of the commission.
Yeah, most of them are behind fences.
Yeah, most of them are, and this one's difficult because it is a high visibility. There's, whenever you have a corner house by default, it's more challenging because they don't have the same ability to mask things that interior lots would. So I will go back to Mr. Duper if he had additional information on this.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have some type of shed. It's pretty tough storing all your tools and stuff in a kitchen. I will say, I'm almost curious, I could almost see about potentially putting it towards the side facing my neighbor's house and using my house as kind of a obstruction, I guess. I don't know how much space is back there, and I have to measure it, but that could be a possibility. So, yeah.
So you're thinking of putting it right here?
Turn it maybe, put it right here potentially.
What, is that where the driveway is?
Still see it full on from Sixth.
Yeah, you would see it from, well, you would not see it from Sixth, you would see it from Sherman.
Well, I mean, we've approved outbuildings on skids that weren't visible from the street. I mean, these plastic things that come from Lowe's, we've approved those before.
Yeah, they've always
not
been,
even
it's all,
permanent.
the challenge has always been visibility is what
Yeah,
the
the
commission has
visibility
focused
is the
on.
thing.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
that's what they have really focused on. And so I think there's sort of two separate issues here. One is it a temporary storage, which might require a different solution than something more long-term, and I don't
Well,
know.
it's either temporary or permanent.
When you're referring to those lows that come on those skids, the plastic ones or whatever, I've seen those before. Are those considered temporary or permanent?
Yes.
They are considered temporary,
Yeah.
even if they've been there for years.
Well, they're not, they're not permanent because you can move them.
Yeah.
But John, that's not by the commission standards. You're thinking building department. The commission standards, they've not approved something that goes in for a short period of time. Once it's approved, it's approved. So they don't use the building department standards of, does it have a foundation or is it above a certain square footage? So what he was originally saying was temporary as in X number of months, and he was asking for that, looking for more grace on visibility. If he's asking for permanent, meaning it just stays as long as he wants it to, that's a different discussion with the commission.
I know that we have approved I don't know what you call them, temporary buildings in the back of houses. Now, whether they get moved or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
But there's always, it's been predicated on the fact that they're not permanent. They're just sitting there. They can move, they can, now, if it sits there for 30 years,
but the issue on those has always been visibility.
Oh, well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
We have approved those. I don't think you can get, the difficulty is gonna be the visibility of it.
I know for a fact, I can hide something right back here for sure, something like those low plastic sheds. And if I need to put a fence or something up right there, I can. That doesn't necessarily.
Well, let me ask this, are you looking at it as being permanent? I guess you are. Cause I heard tools, I need a shed to put my tools in while I'm doing the work. Once the work's over with, I'm not gonna need a shed.
Here's why it won't be totally permanent. Once I can build this will no longer have to exist. But this is 3 years out at least, until I can get to something like that. So this shed would be permanent for 3 years, and then I would not want it there anymore because I can put all my tools and stuff in here. I want that to kind of be like a shop, like a wood shop, mechanic shop type of thing.
Sounds like this is another one that needs to be withdrawn, and once you decide on the shed and the location and whether or not you're gonna build a fence, submit another COA.
Okay.
all right. So for this one, the commission wants location, the type, and screening.
Picture of it if it's coming from Lowe's or Home Depot.
Okay. So you're gonna withdraw this one and then come back in with the revised one with that data?
Yeah.
Okay. Side door. I'm trying to move out to in on the house so we get closer as we're going through it. So this is the applicant met site on staff before the house was purchased and discussed that the exterior building or site changes went through HPC or staff. The kitchen door was removed without the COA process, and then the opening was boarded up. The original historic door was discarded. The commission had a brief discussion with this and Mr. Duper at a prior meeting. The door opening sat boarded up for several months, and Mr. Duper had originally submitted a COA on September 14th, showing a rather contemporary door with faux leaded glass and side lights. And staff informed him that I didn't have the authority to approve the design because it didn't meet the standards that you would have to go in front of the commission. He then located a rehabilitated door with a large contemporary stained glass panel and sent me a photograph of it. And I discussed the project again and told him there were sort of two paths forward, a very simple contemporary door that you could get more at a big box store. And I sent him some pictures sort of along those lines of what would probably work with the commission. Or a vintage salvaged historic door that was period appropriate. And that particular door did not meet either standard. On September 17th, I received about a half a dozen messages with photos that he was purchasing the door that day. And so this is the door that was removed. These are in a standard interiors book on periods. So I was sort of showing him, the light is going to be less than about 40% of the door. It's a little above the halfway mark to sort of give him a sense of what they look like. Sometimes you have a Queen Anne light. This is pretty similar to what his door was that was removed. This is sort of a hybrid panel Queen Anne. This was one door he had sent me, and I had said I didn't think it met the standards. He'd have to come in front of the commission. This one he sent me, and I said it's too contemporary. It has faux leaded glass, which is sort of a false historicism, and the opening was too big. He sent me this one, and I said, that's probably your best bet out of the ones you've sent. It's the simplest. It has a smaller glass size. And then he responded, that this wasn't going to be the door. Instead, it was this door, and this is the one that was installed. I don't really have the best sizing, but I tried to give you a sense of scale. So this is the door that was on here. This is the door that's here now. I don't have a full picture of this door, but that does give you an idea. The glass on that probably would have stopped somewhere in this area here. So this door has been installed. Mr. Duper did indicate that he had located the original kitchen door, possibly at the architectural salvage store in Coleman, but it would need fixing to be reinstalled. Mr. Duper would like a retroactive COA to approve the contemporary faux Victorian door installed at the side of the property. The design review standards, entrances, doors, original doors should be retained and maintained throughout continued repair and painting. Deteriorated or missing elements should be replaced in kind with a new frame or glass to match the original. Replacement doors. If replacement of a historic door on a primary elevation, and because this is visible from 6, it is considered a primary, is necessary, it's recommended that a new door be installed to match the design of the original door. Other appropriate alternatives include relocation of an original door from another elevation. Obviously don't have that option here. Replacement with an appropriate historic door. Many architectural salvage companies specialize in historic architectural features. If a historic door is not available, a modern door is appropriate as long as it's compatible with the architectural character of the building. The installation of modern flush doors, doors with ornate or elaborate metal designs, or variations of other designs are out of keeping with the character of the house should not occur. And with windows and decorative glass, and specifically the decorative glass on this one, where such features do not presently exist, their installation at principal elevations is not recommended unless they are being installed to match period documented historic features. Staff finding. The door currently installed does not appear to meet the HPC guidelines. It's a modern door that introduces design elements like faux leaded glass the original door did not have. The size of the glazing panel is substantially larger than what is found in a historic door from that era of the house, with insufficient wood on the lower half of the door. And I don't think, yeah, that probably shows up better that way. So that is all the data that I have on the door. And so this one is actually a retroactive COA because it's already been installed and he would like permission to keep it.
Mr. Duper, I'm just trying to understand your thought process on this. So you spent a good amount of time, it sounds like, talking with Caroline about the type of door that needed to be put in there.
Yep.
You sent pictures back and forth. She finally approved one for you, and then you came home with one that was entirely different, didn't think that you needed to call her back and get approval on that one, and you installed it. So
Yeah.
Explain
So
that to me.
yeah, I was in Huntsville. I was at the Preservation Society company. I don't know, something like that. Saw a door that fitted it, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's great. What's the price tag? $1,500. Okay, whatever." Uncle says, "Hey, let's go to this, great store over here. Let's see if they have anything." I was like, well, I already found one. Blah blah blah. Go to the new store, find a great deal on a door, that door, and I start taking a picture of it, and my phone dies, and so I can't ask Caroline if it's approved or not. And I guess my thinking was, holy cow, if you look at that door and then go back to the Garfield door, or not the Garfield door, the one that you had sent me. In my thinking, this is what I thought. One more time, or at the very beginning. Yeah, this guy. That guy compared to, and then go back to my door. That door, the door I installed. To me, they looked very similar because I saw that they were square. I saw that they had the paneling on the outside, and I saw those two things at the bottom. I was like, oh, wow, this is perfect. I'm not able to ask Caroline because my phone's dead, but gosh, this is a great deal. It's a lot better than $1,500. I'm gonna get it. I gotta get the wood panel off. I had tools stolen from my house, and so I had to get a door on there for security purposes more than anything. And so I guess that's one of the reasons. And granted, I didn't know. I should have thought of all this beforehand. But when all my tools get stolen, I was like, holy cow, I got to get a door on there ASAP. So, that's kind of the story of why that one is the way it is. I looked at that and I said, wow, this is very similar to the picture that she had sent me. Surely this would be okay. And I guess part of the fun of remodeling a house is finding things that are, intriguing, and like finding things with your uncle at a store that are, wow, a good deal and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, for me it was enjoyable, I guess. Now, granted, that was before I knew it was faux and all this other stuff. So I've talked to North Alabama Glass about potentially, changing that paint and stuff. They said they wouldn't really recommend it. Really, once again, for security purposes, they're like, that's a really big, window that somebody could easily just kind of fall into or whatever. So that's the story behind that.
So, as much fun as it is, if you have a historic house in the historic district, you can't just put up whatever you find with your uncle. It can happen. You can do whatever you want to on the inside, not a problem. But whatever happens on the outside has got to come before this commission and be approved. And I don't know how many times we're gonna have to say that, Caroline's gonna have to say that, John is gonna have to say that to get it through your head.
I think one of the things I was thinking about was safety, and it wasn't just,
You had a door that was approved that would have accomplished that. You probably had a phone you could have borrowed from your uncle or a charger in your car. And I think you knew that it wasn't gonna get approved and you didn't want to mess with it.
I did not. I know price tag does not matter, but it does to homeowners, and so finding a door that was significantly less expensive than $1,500, in my thinking, looks very extremely similar to the door that was sent to me with the drawing. From my perspective, it's like, wow, okay, this is awesome. Like, this is great. I can't believe I was able to find this door. I think it looks great, and I mean, obviously, I know it doesn't matter what I think, but I was on, like, the reason why I got that one and not a different one that already had the trim and everything was because I looked at that and I said, well, this is what the Historic Commission wants, is something that looks like that. And so that's the reason why I chose that one as opposed to one that already had the trim on it, where I didn't have to spend, a whole day trying to hang a door. Not easy to do. So that is, that was my
I
thinking.
had a question. First of all, let me just say this. Speaking for myself, the door would, in the historic preservation vernacular, it's not appropriate. Okay? It's not appropriate. So we got to figure out what kind of solution you can come up with. There's a kitchen picture that,
You mean on the inside?
yeah, inside.
Hold on. There is. It's that, but you can't see the door in it.
Yeah, what about that door right there?
Oh, the interior door to an exterior?
I mean, I know that, one of the guidelines is, hey, you got a door that's similar off the back of your house, and I'm gonna move it to the front. There's typically exterior doors, but I'm just throwing this out.
Yeah, I mean,
You could take that beautiful door that you love so much and put it inside.
I have no idea what the size is like. Do you know if they're compatible, if you could do that?
I mean, that looks about the ceilings are 11 feet, so that looks about 8 feet to me. I mean, the hardest thing for me was trying to find a door with those dimensions. It's 8-foot doors are not, they don't just show up on the side of the road anymore.
You threw one away.
Well, yeah, because it was destroyed. If you'd have seen the door, you'd have, I mean, it was despicable. It was awful.
I saw the door.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, it was
John
So
saw
what
the door.
you think is not fixable often is fixable. That's the moral of that story. Those two stories, those two doors you threw away. Did you throw away the back door and the side door?
No, it's
No.
the same. That's the same. There is no back door, correct?
No.
no.
There's a
not.
side door.
Well, and
And then
okay,
there's
so
the front
something
door.
that would protect homeowners in the future is some guy comes up and says, "Hey, I'll take your back door for you for $50." Of course, me seeing a door that's completely rotted and I think it's trash. I don't know anything about how hard it is to find a historic door. Sure, yeah, that's fine. That'll buy me lunch for the day. And so, if I would have known that this guy who was completely ripping me off and I look back at that and I think, wow, what a jerk, because he knew what he was doing. He's some historic salvage guy, and he knows.
I guess maybe what you could learn from this is that you've got access to someone who can say, hey, $50 for that door is
Yeah,
inappropriate. You hang on to it. I mean, You've got access, and that's what I guess is bothering me the most about
Well,
this.
that was before we were
You
friends.
have access, you don't use it, and then all of a sudden we come up with this, and we're trying to approve a door that's not appropriate, and I'm not sure it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So,
We got a lot better communication now than when I first bought that. I mean, that was like probably within the first week or, well, it's probably within the first
I'm not
2
seeing
weeks.
much communication at all.
Well, can we vote on this? Because this is to
I mean, we
retroactively approve
not
this door,
approve.
right?
The retroactive COA.
Is that right?
Well, no, I think there's a motion, Emily, you can correct me on Robert's rules, there's a motion to approve and either they vote for it or
Okay.
against it. Is that the way it works? The motion's always affirmative.
Right.
Okay.
So if they do not want it, they vote.
Yeah, we
no.
just vote no.
And let's go.
And,
I make a motion to approve.
Hold on a second, Emily, did I miss something?
I was just gonna mention to you and I don't know about the crime stats in this area, okay, as far as alleys. But if you do put things close to your alley, people will come by thinking it's salvage or something else and take it. So if you do put anything, I'm just giving you a warning from, unfortunately, experience that I've had, experience with my other job title that I do here. So I just want to give you a cautionary warning about that, about materials and stuff like that, so that it doesn't get picked up in your alley or something else happens. So,
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people do when
Right.
they don't want something, is they
Right.
put it on the alley to be picked up. We have alley riders.
Right, that stuff was not stolen from the alley, it was stolen from in my house, and I'm pretty sure they got through that back door with the plywood on it, and that's what freaked me out, and so that's why I presumably.
So what is the COA request for?
So the
retro-approve.
COA was a retroactive to approve this specific door.
I make a motion that we approve.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
No.
All opposed?
Aye,
Unanimous, motion fails to carry.
to work on that.
So what we need to do is outline a path forward. What I had told Mr. Duper before, there are some contemporary doors because, I mean, we have had people do historic doors and they've gone through salvage and they have hunted and hunted. I think I had one property owner went to New Orleans to find just the right front door a couple years ago. The Lyerly house, you probably remember that one. He has a door there now, so it's not like he has to find a door tomorrow. But there is an option to do something contemporary in addition to looking for salvage if he wants to continue to do that. Probably need a timeline on here on guidance for compliance because right now he's out of compliance. So we need to be able to give him time to come up with something more appropriate. Emily, do you know from experience, is six months typical on that for compliance?
I think that would be generous if you wanted to do 6.
That'd be exceptionally generous.
3
You wanna
months.
do
Or
3
say
months?
3 months.
You want to do 4 since we've got the holiday season that basically eats a
Sure.
whole month? We'll do 4 months,
Yeah.
and then I can work with him on identifying possible solutions. Salvage is tricky sometimes but if he's got either option, if he just wants to do something contemporary. And am I correct, based on conversations with the commission?
I would also say this too, I don't think we need to get hung up on it being the exact dimensions. If it's a little smaller or a little bigger, then so be it, they just modify the frame opening. Because if
That's more money.
if you're gonna try to hit that sweet spot, you're cutting yourself way down low.
What's the width of the door?
36 inches.
36 is what it is? Well,
I can modify the frame?
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's-
if you came back at like the salvage door, it's probably not gonna be exact. So,
So John, how is they gonna handle the side light above? Because the commission has not given this guidance.
well,
to
that was my
anyone
next
else.
question is that side light, is the transom light original? That
Not
was,
that I can tell, no. But the commission has not allowed door openings to change on the front before, so if you would do this one, would it be because it's a side opening, which gives you, it's highly visible, but it's a side? Is that what I'm hearing? That would give this more flexibility than you
well,
traditionally?
I'm just saying, instead of if you found a door that was 37 inches instead of 36, or 34 and a half, or 35 and a half.
Yeah. I had to cut
I'm
that
not
one
talking
down.
about putting a 42-inch door in.
I got you. Yeah, I'll see what, I mean, yeah, I'll see what I can do.
The rest of the commission have anything else to add?
Last thing I'll say, that door on the bottom right that was approved, that was from Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt.
So the transom was not original?
That particular one, no. If there was an opening there originally, I don't know. But I was looking at it when I was
Is
in
that the one that's
kitchen.
got writing on it?
Yeah, it's got
Okay.
writing on it. It's like a Ray Dunn for the kitchen.
It's not gonna have writing on it for very. it's gonna
So,
Okay.
okay, so then working to hopefully fast track one that, if not vintage to this era, we might be able to find a new one. The new doors would be much more simpler, and the commission has historically allowed that too, something much simpler and quieter than allows the main portion of the building to come forward. Okay. Any questions, anything you want clarified on this before we move to the next one?
And if you know of anybody looking to get rid of their door, let me know.
There are some contractors that work in the district, and sometimes they store things from sites.
Okay.
It might be worth reaching out to them and giving them approximate dimensions and seeing what they have. Where am I in here? Side porch and deck removal. We discussed this a little bit last time because this was an emergency COA authorization. This is on that side. Here's a portion of it. The deck has been removed. It was failing, and that specific deck was not original. The footprint may very well have been original, but that specific material, and also the construction method on this, these are on metal hangers, essentially, is how they're attached to the house. So these are relatively recent, these particular ones, although clearly these columns have some age on them. Emergency approval was given for removal in the November 10th, 2021 HPC meeting. Applicant would like to rebuild a larger deck portion, but we don't have plans yet for the pergola portion of the porch deck. Porches are on over 80% of the district's residences, either partial width or full width. Most porches retain their historic appearance. Some have been altered. Staff findings, both the deck, which is now gone, and the pergola have metal hangers, material that's not original. The Sanborn maps do clearly show a one-story porch on the house, but they don't indicate roofing material, support system, anything like that. They just show you that there is that footprint. Staff suggests having a complete set of plans to review for the new deck. You can see existing, it ends right before, this is the window that's closest to the front. And so it ends right before where the electricity comes into the house. So that is the footprint. What he was submitting was about the same footprint, but it was wider. So the length was the same, but it would end probably right about in here? Is that right? So it would just get to be a larger, but there was no discussion on what was going to occur with these. The center one's not the same. So they've clearly been reused. From where, we don't know. I even went down to archives to see if I could find anything. There's just nothing really on that. This is the proposed footprint of the replacement, which I think the original ends somewhere in here. So there are a couple of sort of discussions on how to handle this. There needs to be some sort of dialogue with the applicant about, is the commission in favor of increasing the size of the decking, but leaving the columns and the pergola the same size? Because if the decking is so low, it does not require a railing. This is very low to the ground. So when you drive down 6, if it is screened, you will not really see that there is a deck there if a landscaping plan screens it. So then the real issue is what you see when you drive down 6. It's how that pergola connects in at the top. And that's not part of this plan yet. So having this dialogue with the applicant, is the size something the commission is willing to support? And if so, what are they gonna be looking for with the pergola? Do you want him to come back with that? Are you fine with just starting with the decking, but requiring him to come back for the pergola portion? The submitted drawings, I think originally showed a railing, but I think the newest plans don't. At one point he showed a railing, and then I told him it's so low, you don't have to put a railing up, save money. So staff suggests, you know, that if this decking footprint, the commission is comfortable with it, then the commission can agree if you still want to see the pergola as part of the COA, or if you're willing to approve a split one where you do the decking first and then come back to the pergola.
Was this originally a porch?
There's no indication of that. All that's there is this open sort of pergola. There's no indication of a roofing material. When I looked and tried to find vintage photos, it's always been, everything I found, which isn't that old, is just this vintage pergola. There's no framing. There's no real mark showing framing or screens or roofing. Yeah.
Go back to the fire print drawing. I'm curious if that maybe showed it.
Oh, you're looking for the Sanborn?
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Let's see.
Okay, so
Here
here,
it
that's
is.
on the second floor of my home. They covered this, that where all those windows are that look different than all of them. That used to be open. This used to be a 2-story something or another as well. Maybe that was also open as well, or maybe that was also a staircase going up to this. And I guess that. So I'm assuming the porch was underneath here at some point as well, and then they just jetted it out, maybe even a little further. I'm not 1,000% positive about that.
No, what they had, your house had a sleeping porch originally. So,
Okay,
and
that's
most
the
of them
part.
did in this era, and then by the 30s and 40s, they started enclosing them. So you'll see a lot of enclosed sleeping porches in the district, which makes them look a little wonky from the street because the rhythm is a little different. So the second floor was open as a sleeping porch, but it was only open here. But what you're looking at was always 1 story, but this doesn't tell you, was it a pergola? Was it enclosed? You know, there's no, they don't really have screen porches in the era this house was built. The screen porches come a little bit later. There's a little bit of flexibility with this depending on, for the commission, if they want to look at it, depending on how it's seen from the street, which is why I focused on, let's see.
Well,
Just
there's
copy this.
2 things in evidence that would probably point that the pergola was not original. And that's the mismatched columns and the hanging brackets at the wall.
Yeah.
So I would think that, you know, from a historic standpoint, those were not original.
Yeah, so the question is what's there, and
Now-
I'm not finding anything to guide us.
I think I want to see it all, what's going to go on the top of it, rather than just we extend a porch out here and then we got to work on what's going to come above it, if anything above it.
I would like
see
to
a
have a
plan.
covered, a screen and porch would be awesome. I didn't draw that up because I didn't think there was any way it'd get approved.
You
We're
would be
not talking
correct.
screened in, we're talking about screening the deck with landscaping so that you don't see it, I think, isn't that what?
Well, I'm just talking about,
We're talk-
are you going to put a roof on it or
a pergola.
not? Or is it-
Right, that's what I would like to have.
Yeah.
The reason why I'd like to have a roof is, well, at least even like an awning over that door so that there's not water getting on that door and stuff.
And I
It's
don't
possible.
know, and John, this is in your wheelhouse. You know, there's this very interesting partially depth shed, and it's like a ridge. It runs here and it runs along the front, and it's clearly got quite some age on it. Based on the height of the door, now he could get rid of that transom. What sort of roof would be going on here if he wants to put a roof? And he and I did discuss a roof. We also discussed if he wanted it screened and would that be a possibility. And I told him that's something he could discuss with the commission. But if he wants a roof on here, what kind of a pitch and how is that going to work with the existing framing and what you see, John? I mean, when I looked at this transom, if the transom stays, it's much more difficult because you've got very little space. If the transom goes away, you've got space to do a drop, and then it's just how does it intersect with this?
I don't, from what I can see, and you know, I'd have to go out there and look closer, but
Okay.
I don't think there's been any evidence that there ever was a roof up there. You know, the porch deck looked like it was there, but doesn't seem like it ever had anything covered. And I think if you were to try to come in there and put something on it, I would, just me personally, I would probably say that's not appropriate. Because
Right.
it was never been there.
Right, and that's the reason why I wasn't in the COA.
And you know, maybe you can take those 3 columns and swap them out for your door.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to put them back. As far as the deck is concerned, I guess my concern is, let me just tell you, we had a project one time where a guy wanted to build this big garage, and he drew the picture of the garage and everything looked good, and I said, well, how's the garage looking next to the building? Where's your existing building? And we just took his word that it'd be okay. And then when he built it, it was 5 feet from the house, and it was just completely inappropriate. So my question would be, where does that deck that you're showing, how is it related to the back of the house? How far does it stick out?
Yeah,
How far is it from the property line?
Yeah, if you go back to the dimensions. So the current deck that you saw right there was 8 feet long. This one is 15 feet. So it's basically twice that and a little bit more.
You mean
as
the
far as
width or length?
or
You mean width?
This.
The width, okay.
Yeah. It's the exact same length. The width is just basically double, a little less than double. And then as far as the property line is, I think it's 63 feet to the property line from my back door. So
hold on just a second. The top is the house.
yeah, this is the house.
Okay.
Here's my back door, right here.
Okay, so I guess I'm looking at the width being this way and the depth being that. But where it is right now, the way the decking is running is completely opposite, or it's not the same way as the original deck. Original deck, yeah. Is there a reason why it's not coming that way then?
Free software, just honestly, that's the first time I noticed it. But I can obviously, I would put it that way if that's the way it needs to go. To me, that's apples and oranges.
And is the decking the same profile, width?
3.5 inch tongue and groove. Literal lumber has it.
Let me make sure I understand. The house is up there. This is the deck that you are proposing to come out of there. But you're saying it could go this way.
Yeah, that honestly, that's good observation. I didn't realize that this deck is perpendicular to the deck that I have currently. But yeah, I would just if it needs to go that way, it's gonna go. That does not matter to me. Either way, it's totally fine.
Caroline, how does that, if you put that on the side of the house, what does that do to the overall view of the house?
It's very low. Do you know how far off the ground you'd be?
No, the end of it would be basically, it would be a 2x6, because it would be 6 inches off the ground, whatever
Yeah.
I end up deciding to put on the end. Whether it be a 2x8 or 2x6, it would be.
So
Yeah.
you can see, the height, because what he was proposing was the same height as what is there now.
Yeah.
So it's extraordinarily low to the ground.
So it's twice the
But
length?
it's twice the length. So at that point, it's like,
The
okay,
length is this way.
when you drive down the street
the
and there
house.
will be some
Okay.
landscaping there, is that gonna be, extending it, is that any different than having a patio there? By itself, probably not. Now, the real question becomes what the interface is up here. If this stays the same depth, and it's really just a decorative element, which is what's there now, it's a decorative element, I don't think most people would even notice that the deck extended, because by the time we get bushes or any sort of a partial fence or screening, it's so low to the ground, it doesn't need a railing. If it needed a railing, we'd be having a very different discussion, but it doesn't need a railing. And so I think in an earlier discussion, you were sort of looking at entertaining space out there to have a table,
grill out and barbecue.
grill, barbecue.
And it's showing 3 steps, but there's no steps.
There's one. Oh, yeah, those, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many, I guess it is 3. But yes, that would not be,
Yeah, so I think one of the things the commission looks for is when they look at the drawings, they look for them to be pretty final and detailed out, because that was their concern, is that they're seeing that it has far more steps than
yeah, I
what the
couldn't,
discussion is.
on the software, it wouldn't let me go shorter than that, which is a shame.
And the pergola we just don't know about yet?
You've retained the 3 columns, correct?
Yeah, those are still, I still have those. What I would like to see is an awning over my back door with, obviously this would be a whole separate COA, with 2 of those columns supporting that awning, and that, like, just 2 of those columns, so picture this guy here, and then that coming out like 5 feet, little awning. That way the door is not getting water damaged, whatever new door is gonna be in there, and, I think that would look pretty good, but that's just an idea. That's
Okay, so I guess what we're voting on is whether or not to allow the increased size in the porch.
Yeah, I mean, the commission, there's a couple of ways. I mean, if you are comfortable with just the decking by itself, you can vote on that portion of the COA. If you decide you really want to see a full COA that actually addresses what's going to happen to the door and what's going to happen with the columns, or if he wants to propose a screened porch or something different, you can ask to have him withdraw this and come back with a full COA for this as well.
Well, that's personally what I would like to
I
see.
think I agree with you.
If he were to come back with a screened porch, what would you entertain as something to look at? It's an unusual location. Yes, it is highly visible. It's also on the side, so it sort of has a double, to try to give him an entertaining space that he could use. So you're looking for one that's very well dressed out, very well detailed. So I think if you want that screened porch, you need full construction, pretty close to full construction drawings that really show exactly the pitch of the roof, exactly what the supporting members are going to look like, where the screen is going to fit, how detailed everything is. And I think that's what I'm hearing the commission would discuss that with you, but they want the full details before they open that discussion.
And what, okay, go ahead.
And even if it's a deck with just the pergola put back, we need those details too, where it's gonna be.
Okay, and the proposal right now is that just that deck that you saw, those dimensions, without the pergola, without the columns, without any of that, and that's not a thing, or is that?
I don't, does the commission, is what I'm hearing from the commission, what would you like?
I think the thing is that when we like to vote on things that we're sure about,
Okay.
or that the applicant's sure about. And sometimes if the applicant comes in and says, well, I can do either this or that, then it doesn't allow us to vote on that. And it sounds like to me that there are other components that are gonna be dealing with this deck that we're hearing you talk about, that you might wanna see. And our suggestion might be to get those answered to where you can sit back and say, this is definitely what I want, and this is what we're gonna vote on. You follow that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what we're saying.
Okay.
Just make sure to maybe withdraw this one, get all these points down, and then submit it back.
And I would assume with this particular one, because of the visibility, if he gets some drawings on a proposal, it's something that I would be meeting with the staff architect to assist him with before it comes back in front of the full commission to try to nail down any residual details. One of the advantages of being within the district is you start moving through complex COAs. We have a commission architect who can meet on site. So once you get to the point where you have sort of a proposal, we can call them in and have to sort of do a walkthrough, and then that helps you nail it down even further before you actually pull it into the commission. And they'll be asking the types of questions that you need to have answers for before you come back in front of the commission. Okay. So withdraw this one, and we're gonna work on a screen porch maybe with a protection for your door.
Sure, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
screen, then that back door won't be, I guess, as visible.
Reducing the size of the side and rear windows. So the rear window I don't have, it's so tight that I can't get a good picture of it from a distance because I would have to stand on the neighbor's property. But this is the rear window here. We're going to show it this way first. The kitchen is undergoing a complete remodel, and the original kitchen followed a late Victorian space use. It was small, it was not designed for a refrigerator or a dishwasher. Because the original servant's staircase terminates in the kitchen, there's a very limited floor plan for kitchen layout. It's complicated by 2 windows, this one here, which faces north, and there's a rear one on the side, because they're very low in the wall. Because most Victorian kitchens had very limited kitchen cabinetry. They had tables, work tables. So the applicant would like to raise the 2 windows. The terminology he was using was raise, but it's not actually raising the window, it's shrinking the window opening. So he's not going up further in the wall, the actual bottom part is coming up. To provide wall space where countertops would fit in without being run in front of the windows. He has discussed this with the commission staff and John Godwin several months ago. Godwin and staff made it clear that there couldn't be any window moving without discussion and an approved COA by the commission. Sometime later, the applicant indicated his contractor had moved the window on his own accord, and that is this rear window. So if you notice, the upper sash and the lower sash should be the same size, but when you look at it from the inside, you see what's happened. They've just pushed the bottom sash up. So this one was already done. This picture gives you a good idea of the limited wall space. So you can't see it, but this is an internal brick chimney. The staircase terminates right here. So someone walks down a staircase from upstairs here, where I'm standing, the back door swings into. This is your counter space here. There is space to put a small peninsula right here, but it's very, if that window was down all the way here, and you've got to put a fridge and counter and dishwasher and cooktop in there.
I'll say one thing about
Real
that
estate.
window right there that's already raised. I've already talked to the guy about what we can do is we can take that top part right there, this thing, and make that in line with that one and just get a smaller pane of glass and put it in there so that it looks essentially very similar to what was there before.
So when the window was raised, and that's how I found it originally, staff, notified the applicant that additional work couldn't occur without a COA, and then the photo I received later was that it had been partially filled in. The commission doesn't really have design review standards that address taking an original historic window and altering it in this way. So when we don't have those, we sort of default back to SOI standards, the Secretary of the Interiors, to try to figure out what's the most appropriate thing, but also recognizing, even though historically the commission doesn't look at the inside of the house, the best way to fix this is to rip out the servant staircase. If he ripped out the servant staircase, it would fix the challenge. But I think it's really cool that he's left the servant staircase. That comes at a cost. And I think altering a window on the rear of the property, if we can find an appropriate way to do it, and possibly even on the side, that rear side, if we can find an appropriate way to do it, is supportive of keeping that servant staircase in the house, which, the commission has always been very cautious on the inside, but again, we don't have very many houses that have original servant staircases, and that is sort of an unusual design feature. The sort of 2 challenges with what we have here, the windows have a set proportion. And so, yes, this sash here could be made smaller, but as you see, they're supposed to be even. The upper sash is the same size as the lower sash. And we have an unbalanced design now, and the one that you would not have seen historically. So after visiting the site and recognizing that severe limited possibility with the interior layout, raising the windows is a possibility. There are some cases where the windows are left intact and fill is placed in front of them. That is another possibility where they can be filled. on the inside, and then on the outside, you would just sort of see the black back of something. But they could also be raised, which would cost more money, but if that's where the applicant wants, that could be an option the commission could examine. That would require, to bring them into proportion together, is to pull the windows out of the wall and make each sash slightly smaller. So removing probably one row of these multi-lights, because you can see, if you look at this, this is essentially, there's a 2-row overlap. If you want to get rid of the 2-row overlap, then this goes up one and this goes down one, if that makes sense. You're sort of bringing them back into proportion. And there are window tradespeople who can do that. They could easily do that. The window proportions would be the same. It would just be slightly smaller. They could go right back in the wall that way. The commission could also discuss the unintended consequences of the patch under the rear window. When there have been changes like this before, it's always been a full board that has gone in. And when there's multiple small pieces, as you recognize going through the district, those are the first ones to fail in patchwork. Especially when you're looking for longevity. So I think that is, and right now, the window restoration firm in the state that specializes in historic rehabs is still doing work for the next several weeks on the Princess, the Carnegie. They're getting ready to start the Little Girl Scout house. They would certainly be someone he could talk to about the viability of this. If that route is taken, for the other route of just running cabinets in front of the window and just having it non-operable from the outside, I'm not as familiar with that one. Some of you may have experienced it. I've seen it, but not very often. But I have seen some cases where that's what's done. And that's
We've
it.
actually done that before.
You have? How well has it worked out? It's worked out fine?
Yeah.
How is it handled on the insides, that when you're outside, what is it that you look at?
Oh, damn.
Jacob, what did you do? Do you have pictures of it that you could share? Can you get some? I think that would be helpful, so it would let him know what his options were. Do you have a preference between the two?
I mean, I'd love to just raise them. I mean, I would still like to be able to use a window.
Okay.
If you're, washing dishes or something and open a window.
Okay.
I feel like that's part of the American dream.
So the windows, both the upper and the lower sash, would have to be reconfigured, but shrink both of them.
I would say
Do that.
what I would like, and what I think is by far the easiest, is just taking this upper guy and moving him in parallel with this guy right here, and then just getting a new window from North Alabama Glass or whoever, or maybe even trying to cut that one, and just sticking it right there. And then, at that point, I think. The reason why I asked about the covered porch is because if that's the case, this window already faces my neighbor's house. Nobody sees this window. We'll ever see this window. The other window, if it's covered and it's screened in, nobody's really going to see that window either. That's the only reason why I asked about that. Because then these both would not be high visibility windows at that point.
I mean, so it seems to me that we need to know what's going on the side, deck, porch, pergola, whatever, before we look at this.
You could, the commission, I'm trying to think if I've seen any cases of shrinking, because these windows are a character defining feature on this house.
But
So-
regardless of what's going on with the screen porch and where the window's located, what we're trying to do is keep the historic integrity of the windows, yes, as much as we
That
can.
is the design review standards do uphold that, yes. Yeah.
I would say that the main character defining feature is the upper sash. And so I'm not, if we're gonna change this window at all, I'm probably more in Austin's camp of making that lower sash smaller and not worrying about it, the proportion being right, because the top part, when you go around the building, that's what you see, is that's the character defining feature. And I think if you try to take 2 rows off of it and heel it back in, that's gonna make it even look
Well, one thing that's character defining feature, the top part is multi-light, but the windows have the same upper and lower sash. There's not a size differential between them, so they're identical in their size.
Well, I know that, I know that, but my first thought would be you leave the window and you cover it up on the inside and take care of it. But if you're gonna modify the window, make it shorter, you know, if you look back at that picture, the character defining feature of the window is the grid pattern on the upper sash. So, you know, right there, it's still there. I'm not so sure if you tried to modify it to make them equal, that it's not going to harm it even further. I mean, we're altering it now. So do we alter both of them, or do we alter one? And my thought is you do the one. If you allow the seal to be raised, that would be my thought on it.
Did that bottom sash get cut off?
No, it's just stuck
It's
up.
just-
No,
Stuck up.
it's, you can see from the inside, it's
They
raised.
just pushed it
They
up,
just
so
pushed it
it's-
up.
You know,
Could it be? I mean, could it be?
What's that? Cut, what part cut?
Bottom seal.
Bottom sash.
yeah. Well, what we're talking about is taking the bottom sash and
Shrinking it.
Yeah.
shrinking it down to,
Yeah.
to the rail.
That's what I would like to do. That to me is the
That's what
easiest
I'm-
thing.
But I think what we're proposing is using that window
Yes,
and altering that one, not go, we'll get a new one.
correct, yeah, cutting that window, yeah.
Use the original glass.
Yeah, that'd be cheaper, yeah, that'd be great.
Well, cheaper ain't got nothing to do with it.
I was going, yeah,
Appropriate.
Appropriate.
and
Historic.
I mean, I could go with that.
Unless there's something about the SOI, you know,
Well, and one of the things too, we can stick with, you know, the standing, you know, Department of Interior, all these standards or whatever. But in order for us to actually have some of these houses maintained, they have to be livable. I mean, it's, you know, and I can see where those windows are. Yes, one's on the side, and if you're driving down south on 31, it's right there. But I think John's right, if you keep that top part, and you keep the original glass in the bottom, just make it smaller. I don't see how that destroys, I mean, yes, you've altered a historic part of it.
oh, and I can't let this go either. That's done. And you and I sat in that kitchen and said,
Right.
and I told you, don't do anything to the outside.
The guy who did
I
that
don't
got
care.
chewed out.
I
I
don't
know,
care.
I know, it's
I
my
don't
fault,
care,
but I did not approve that, and that's the reason why the other one has not been touched at all, is
Who is
because
your
I wanted.
contractor?
His name is Steve.
Steve who?
I don't even know his last name. I just call him Steve.
You know, somebody
You've got a
working on the house,
contractor,
don't know
you
his
don't-
No, like he works.
He's just a laborer, right?
Well, he's a carpenter / drywall guy. He's the main guy that he's the guy that did the window and set the door and helped me set the door and
And
a
how are
lot of
you
that stuff.
paying him if you don't know his last name? Are you writing checks to him? Or give-
Take him out to lunch.
Well,
Fish on.
what about this other window on the other side? Is that
This one over here.
the one right around the corner?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've not touched it because when he did the other one, I said, dude, you can't just do, because I had talked to him about it. I was like, hey, you know, I got to, you know, go in front of the commission and stuff about the window, and then I go for a run at Delano Park, and he's already taken it apart and stuff. I was like, dude, you can't just do that. And so the reason why I haven't touched the other one is because I wanted to discuss it, with y'all first.
I think if I could go with shortening to those two windows, like John suggests, I mean, with the original upper top and using the original bottom window.
Okay.
And now what I don't want to see is you've gone to North Alabama Glass and you've got a new frame and everything else.
No.
I mean, that's going, your credibility is already somewhat shot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to shoot it all down. So, you know, I know you think this is just child's play or whatever. Do you have anybody helping you look at the renovation of this house, inside or out? Or are you just making things up as you go? Is there somebody helping? I mean, is your mother helping you? You know, your grandma, somebody who might have a different perspective on this and say,
Are you saying
hey,
design elements or are you saying constructability elements?
well, I think it all goes together. You don't construct anything if you don't have a design for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've just heard horror stories with people just hiring general contractors who charge them an arm and a leg and don't get the job done for 2 years. I know people personally right now who've
Thought
done
about
that.
an interior designer?
What's that?
An interior designer for the inside who could actually look at the windows?
Well, I mean,
And actually knows competent people who are not gonna take you to the cleaners?
Yeah, I mean, I watch lots of Fixer Upper with Chip and Joanna Gaines, but I do have. I'm going to get some other folks walking in there and stuff. There was one interior designer
I'm
who
talking
called
somebody
me up.
with some design information other than just, hey, you thought about this? I mean, that would be me walking through, so I'm probably whatever, but someone who's got some architectural knowledge, some interior designer, I'm not talking a decorator, a designer has some idea of bearing walls
Sure.
and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there has been an interior designer that's reached out, and I should probably call her back. But you know, I mean, yeah, I probably should. Well, she gave me a great suggestion with the kitchen. Actually, Caroline, I was initially going to have the peninsula off the chimney, but she said to put it against the other wall, which I thought was a great suggestion. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. But yeah, I mean, I take people's ideas, I mean, and then decide which one I think is the best.
Well, let's talk about this window. I mean, this is a retroactive.
Okay, so it's retroactive. We would clarify how the bottom sash is to be treated. How does the commission want the panel under the window filled? Because what's been done is literally something that fits that exact size, whereas the industry standard is the boards get staggered at least, or a longer replacement.
No, the boards need to be replaced in whole, in my opinion.
That's fine.
Any other thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to accept the rear window, the moving of the sash up, or the seal up, but we need to have the bottom sash modified to meet up with the bottom rail of the upper sash.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, upper sash stays the same, bottom sash is modified. For
For
this
both?
window and this window only.
Okay. And infill panel?
We want the infill panel to be replaced and joints, if, I don't know how far we can go out because I can't see it, but not like it is now in a straight line.
Okay, so to follow where the existing joint was.
Right.
So if it's full length, then it's full length, but it's to match what's on
Yeah.
the elevation. Any discussion on the motion?
Second.
Second by Bill,
All original components.
on the window, yes.
Yeah, glass.
So glass, locks,
Yeah.
hardware, okay.
And are you talking about this window only? 'Cause
This one, I said this one on the window only.
there are two that,
Yeah.
okay, so we're just talking about this one.
So what about the second one?
Hmm?
What about the second window?
That's the one that is between,
In that picture over there of the interior, where is that second window?
They're both here. So this is
Right
the
there.
one that was altered,
Oh,
but he
right
wants
there,
to alter
okay.
this one too. So he wants to bring this window up to the same height.
And the reason why is to put cabinet, or countertop.
Yeah, because
there.
it's so shallow here, you can't do a counter here. It would come out to about right there. Unless you filled. You either make the window smaller or you fill the window. Those are your two choices.
I think it needs to be treated just like the other one.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
What were you just want them to slap
No,
some cabinet up in front of?
I mean, if this had come to us without it being done, well, no, I'm not gonna say. So we're just talking about these two windows. Can you go back to the side view?
The one window you don't see here, the other window is this one. And I might have a better side view if you, give me a second, I've got so many.
Is it flanked
Here
by
we go.
regular size windows? Or
This
by-
is the other window.
So,
This one
okay.
he's not touched yet. This is the other one, so it would come up to about right here.
Okay.
What is this one that's been boarded up?
That had broken glass, but the glass has been replaced now, and it's a full-size window. So it is.
So that's a different size window.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bigger and it's
Okay,
full
well then
size.
let's do it for both windows.
Yeah.
Both kitchen windows.
So both kitchen windows, the same treatment.
Same thing, yeah.
Okay, so that is, any discussion on that motion? Bill, we had a second.
Second.
Well, Bill seconded,
second.
John made the motion.
Bill seconded it.
Oh,
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, it carries.
If I can mention, when you've got somebody working on that glass, is you gonna have to have it cut down?
I'm gonna have to, yeah, I mean,
Find somebody who's dealt with older glass
Okay.
before.
is that North Alabama, I mean, do you know of anybody?
North Alabama Glass could probably.
They could do it, okay.
Okay, so these are future COAs, but these are discussion points that we're gonna have with them. The front columns, now, commission has not seen this picture before, I got this from code enforcement. Remember, this house was under foreclosure, the bank, and then a holding company had it. So this is what the columns look like. They had reached a point of failure. Now, there was a temporary repair made. This was in the summer of 2020. You can see a crew there. These columns, the repair's not holding, and most of them have been repaired. They're at the point where code enforcement is now requiring new columns. They have essentially become structurally obsolete. So our options for that, obviously there's wood, there's also fiberglass. And the commission will recall, we went through training, there was a discussion of if you've reached the point where all of them have essentially failed, do you allow fiberglass in? I have reached out and had some conversations with Literal Lumber. Even for fiberglass, it's 3 months out if you order now. It's still just to get them. I have talked to other commissions on what they're handling. If it's reached the point where they all need to be replaced, there are a number of commissions that are allowing fiberglass if the dimensions are correct, to follow the dimensions. And so if he wants to propose fiberglass, based on my conversations with the commission and other preservation staff people, we would be needing to make sure that the COA has like a product tear sheet. The actual replacement columns do not have seams. Some have seams, some don't. I would assume you want one that's non-seamed, and that the dimensions line up absolutely as closely as possible. But I didn't want to assist him and go down a rabbit hole and then come back in, because I'm not sure that we can find wood columns that exactly match this right now either. It's just sort of what we're gonna be looking for, because he needs quite a few of them on the house. So any discussion points from the commission, things you think we should be looking for, things you want to see on a COA that comes back in front with these columns? What would the commission like?
Like to see pictures.
I'd like to see pictures too, and I'm fine with fiberglass as
I'm fine.
long as there's an understanding that they are the exact same shape and size and dimensions. So no flutes, no,
Okay,
square,
so
no,
they stay simple Tuscan columns, no Corinthian, no Ionic, no flutes, no tarting it up to be fancier than what it is, but the
Right.
same classic profiles.
right,
Okay.
And I'd also like to see a COA before they go on the porch.
yeah.
Does it have to be fiberglass?
What
Do
do you
they
want
have to be?
instead?
Wood.
Sure.
Yeah,
How
they
about
do.
it? You'll be back here in 6 years.
And if he wants wood too, if we
Yeah, I
can,
think
if we
wood,
can
either
locate
one.
them. Okay,
Yeah.
I
Whatever.
think we would approve either
Okay.
one, as
Yeah, you can get
long, they
wood.
gotta match
Okay.
okay,
what's,
I'd like
what's
wood.
there.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
most important thing, so.
okay. Retaining walls, future COA, but thought might be good to have a discussion point on that now. The retaining wall runs along Sherman and Sixth. The retaining wall on Sixth is put together differently than that on Sherman, probably because the Sixth side has
Has been
continued to
moved.
shrink and it's moved over the years and they've had to hire masons and bring it back. On the Sherman Street side, it's mostly dry stacked. On the Sixth Avenue side, you see more concrete. The large coping top stones have shifted over time, and I know Mr. Duper was out there over the weekend looking at moving you can't move them by himself. They need equipment to get them up there quite.
They're all up there now.
They're all up there now, you got them all up.
Yeah.
So I was looking at doing some repairs, and when I met with him on site, he'd already sort of started. And so you see this was the existing, and then this is the repair work. And I had a discussion with him that that's probably something that had to come in front of the commission in terms of the standards that y'all would look for on the repairs, and to have a discussion on that. So we don't have a COA yet, but I thought it might be good for him to hear the commission's thoughts and what they would like to see in a COA and what they would expect the finished work to look like on the retaining walls.
I think it goes back to the foundation walls. I mean, that is a trade that you can't do yourself. And so the brick mason come over, look at the walls, they can tell you what needs to be done to them.
Okay. Same with that.
And I don't know, it could be that it's expedited if all the pieces are there, and,
Okay.
I mean, if it just becomes repair.
Typically, repair work in kind that matches the original is expedited.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure, since the work that had started was not matching the original, that a discussion on,
Again, it's the same thing. You cannot do anything to the outside without a COA. You cannot. You can't stick concrete in the cracks and try to rebuild that wall that got torn down when you had your excavator in there.
some of it was falling down before.
Some of it, but not
Yeah.
nearly as much as it's down now.
Yeah, so,
But I think if you get that mason, it will give you a lot of help.
If you got, I haven't found a brick mason. I looked it up on Google the other day, and I haven't found. And if you know of any good brick masons the Coleman's house, is that the other house that's getting remodeled on
Yeah.
6th or Sherman Street? If I could get in contact with him, because whoever did their brick looks great.
You can get in touch with the Colemans, you can get in touch with the guy next to him, Wes, if you haven't met him. He had brick steps done, somebody did those
Okay.
recently, very recently.
general contractors could probably give you the name of a brick mason. Most brick masons you're not gonna find on Google. But if you reach out to the Home Builders Association, they might have some contractor names for you. Morgan County Home Builders Association. You could even try Limestone County too, since we're close.
That clock's an hour fast.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, they haven't changed time yet, so.
Somebody told me
I've
that.
already looked. So that is it on the COAs and on the two future COAs that we know.
We need to talk about this.
Oh, yes, so the new front porch light, which was a COA that was submitted, he submitted a COA for the lights on either side of the porch that I approved. And you can see that's what's here. There was nothing there before, and he was looking for something that was somewhat historically appropriate for a Victorian. The next COA that came in was for a pendant light. And sort of the challenge is, it's like, well, it's similar to this, but if I send something else, I'll get that instead. And I was like, well, you're gonna have to take this in front of the commission because this particular light is sort of a faux Frank Lloyd Wright craftsman. And it's not really in keeping with the character of the house, particularly because it's gonna be very close to these, which already have a distinct style. I did send him I randomly went to a big box store and just looked for about half an hour and sent a whole bunch of pictures of things that sort of harmonize with this to sort of start looking for. But did explain sometimes it's more challenging if you try to go the salvage route unless you're very aware of the styles. And so I said I could bring this one in front of the commission, but I tried to explain that the commission typically can't approve something that might look like this. It's gotta be more concrete.
You might also check with the Lighthouse. It's a smaller store to say, hey, I gotta match something here, and see what they could come up with, because that this is just, they'll help you and see what they come up with and present that.
Okay.
But I told him, I had told him as submitted, I couldn't approve this. And
No.
I didn't think the commission would normally accept it as a complete COA because it's not actually complete, but I wanted to confirm with the commission.
Yeah. Well, two things I want to drive home is we can't have a COA that says something very similar. The COA has to spell out exactly what you're gonna do.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the other thing is, this is the kind of thing that Caroline can expedite it. You don't have to come here and bring it
Really?
before us.
Oh,
If
okay.
you text her and she says that it's okay, I mean, she's a great resource, use her.
But it does need
But
to be on
don't
a
let
COA.
her okay something and then you buy something else because it's cheaper. It's not gonna work. You're gonna be right back here. Does it make sense?
Okay. And I do, just to clarify, I still have to have a COA form that goes in the system, but some COA forms I have the authority to authorize, other ones end up here. So that's how you got like your roofing repairs and your siding repairs.
Okay.
Those, you didn't have to come in front of the full commission.
Oh, siding repairs are good? Okay, good.
I believe you have a siding repair one. I'd have to go back into the files, but I think you may have had one.
Okay.
But those are ones typically that when they hit my desk, I can turn them really fast. Roofing all the time. But if it's like, oh, we're changing the roofing, then it goes to the commission.
Okay.
But a lot of the smaller things I can approve. But it's gotta be a complete COA no matter who signs off on it.
Okay.
Right. And if there were COAs that were expedited back in April or May or whenever you first moved into that
Right,
house
they
that
did.
haven't been acted upon,
Right.
you're past your 6 months.
Right,
So you're gonna have to get them reapproved.
right. Yeah.
And if there are no changes, I can authorize a
Okay.
one reapproval.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Another
Thank you
second?
for you guys for calling the emergency meeting. I appreciate it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now make a motion, we adjourn.
It's already been
Somebody
made.
else.
You've missed, John, you have missed the opportunity to make your last motion because this is John's last meeting.
Oh, then I withdraw mine and let him make it.
We're gonna miss you,
Yeah.
but we're happy to
Yeah.
have you.
All right,
Yeah.
adjourned.